the Heart Sutra. After the Heart Sutra, we recite the identity of relative and absolute.
Okay.
And just like the Heart Sutra, what is it about? It's a very long philosophical piece, very poetic, and it speaks about boxes and lids and arrows pointing in midair. But it means, again, this divided world and something that's not divided are not two, like that. Okay? So the whole chant, just throw yourself in and feel that all of this world of separate things is somehow whole. Okay?
Okay.
I see, I explained the whole thing. Okay, let's see. I'll click on this. I'm out of practice here, guys. Let me see. What am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go over here. All right. Okay, do you need a zafu? You have one. Good.
I have one.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Japan. Some of you have never left. Stuart and Yakshib, you've been here all the time, but I've been wandering various places. I am in week 2 of my quarantine. This is the house arrest portion. So if you see me with this phone during the Zazen, 11 o'clock, I have to answer emails from the Japanese government, and they send me surprise where are you messages, one of which I just got, and the software is not, the app is not working on the phone, so I was poking at it. And also video calls where the lady, very kind, very Japanese, I'm sorry to disturb you, and I don't wish to bother you, but where are you? And I say, I'm at home. And she says, can you show me? And I go like this, with the video, and I say, yeah, that's my home. And she says, okay, thank you, sorry to bother you. And then she calls back the next day. So they're trying to make sure that I don't, head off to the 7-Eleven and things like that. I have to stay here. But you guys are welcome to come. There's no rule about that. I just still have to keep distance just to comply, even though I've had 2 vaccinations and 3 PCR tests. And frankly, this is probably the safest Zendo in the world right now. But even so, now some of you, Candy, I'm so glad that the Roxuback arrived. Good, we had a Roxuback that was lost in the mail and finally arrived to Candy's place after a long, long voyage, apparently around the world the wrong way. Some of you are taking various medications for various things, and we will dedicate this to you and to all folks who are recovering from this and that. We will continue with our series on the Heart Sutra today, which I'm really looking forward to. And that's about it. Now, I forgot how to do this. Oh, yes, there's the Jizo that was delivered by my son to Sekishi when my son arrived at Sekishi's house. He brought a box full of little Buddhist things, this and that.
Well, I thought you were going to say through some sort of Zen magic, right? It made it from, all the Zazenkai of the past few weeks, and now suddenly it's still at the Zazenkai.
It flew through the air to your house in my son's suitcase. All right. So if you've been here, I guess we're ready. Kyonin, you're the music man today. So
yes, good to go.
Very good. If you've been here before, you know what to do, and if it's your first time, just follow along. Okay. You want in?
Magahanya halamita shingyo Kanji zaibo sagyo yin hanya haramita yisho kengo kai kudo isaiku yakushari shishikifu ikukufu ishiki sokuze kuku sokuze shikiyu Sogyo shiki yakubu nyoze shari shize shohoku sofu shofu metsufu kufu yofu zofu genze koku chumu shikimu yu sogyo shikimu genni bize shini mushikisho komi soku homu gen kai nai shimu ishiki kai mu myo yaku mu myo jinai shimu lo shi yaku mu lo shi yin mu kushu metsudo mu Chi yakumu tokui mu shoto kobo daisa tae hanya halamita koshin mu keige komu ukufu only isai tendo musoku gyone Hansan ze shobutsu e hanya halamita kotoku wa nokutara sanmyaku sanbodai kochi hanya halamita zedai yinshu zedai myoshu ze muyoshu ze todo shu no yo isaiku shinjitsu fu koko setsu hanya halamita shu soku setsu shu watsu yate hara so yate voyi so aka Hanya Shinyo the identity of relative and absolute. The mind of the great sage of India is intimately converted West and East, while human faculties are both wise and dull in the way there are no northern or southern ancestors. The subtle source shines clear in the light, the branching streams flow in the dark. To be attached to things is primordial illusion, to encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. All spheres, every sense and field, intermingle even as they shine upon, alone, interacting even as they merge, yet keeping their places in expressions of their own. Sights differ primarily in shape and character, and sounds in harsh or soothing tones. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their true nature as a child turns to its mother. Fire is hot, water is wet, wind moves and the earth is dense. Eye and form, ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, the sweet and sour, each independent of the other, like leaves that come from the same root. And though leaves and root must go back to the source, both root and leaves have their own uses. Light is also darkness, but do not think of it as darkness. Darkness is light, do not see it as light. Light and darkness are not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each thing has its own being, which is not different from its place and function. The relative fits the absolute as a box and its lid. The absolute meets the relative like two arrow points that touch in midair. Hearing this, simply perceive what is, make no criterion. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk upon it. Walking forward in the way, you draw no nearer, progress no further. One who fails to see this truth is mountains and rivers away. Listen, those who would perceive this subtle matter. Live well your time by night and day. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now, in reciting the heart of the perfection of Great Wisdom Sutra and the identity of relative and absolute. We dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha, the Honored One, historical Buddha and teacher, and to those ancestral teachers, Eihei Dogen, Honored One, Soji Keizen, Honored One, all successive Honored Ones up until Zuigaku Renpo, Honored One, and Gudo Wafu, Honored One, and to all other Honored Ones throughout history, same yet diverse Honored Ones whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate these efforts to the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well-being for all creatures now suffering or ill in health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be at peace and wisdom pervade the darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled and compassion bloom in perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maham, Prashnam, Paramita.
Zazen? You okay there? You need a fan or anything?
No, I'm fine.
Can you hear me? Do you have something to drink? Would you like some tea?
Oh, yes, please.
Tea, cold tea or hot tea?
Hot tea.
Hot tea.
It is cold today.
be a few minutes, but even during zazen, if you're cold, take
Zazen? we'll have a long kinhin. Take your mask off.
Yeah.
Chris may come later, but if he's not
Okay.
here,
Yeah,
we forget about it.
yeah, guys. I'm so excited to get the first one today.
Then the second one, then you have to wait about 14 days.
Yeah.
Then it's full power. Then you can. No, we have about the 20-minute kinhin. You want a chair or anything?
Yeah.
You want a chair? You can.
Okay, to use the background.
Of course.
Okay.
I made this.
Oh, yeah, the copy. Is Chris coming?
He's supposed to, he is, had something to do with his child in the morning, so that he's coming.
Okay.
And Danielle also said next week she'll be.
will have a talk followed by probably Zazen. I'm just guessing. Kyonin, could you recite the verse to open the sutras? Oh, yeah, there you go.
The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
All right. It's lovely to be home, everyone. Here I am over here. Hi. Good to see everyone. Today we're going to continue reflecting on the Heart Sutra and the section of the Heart Sutra that looks at the most basic of all basic Buddhist teachings. It may have been the Buddha's earliest teaching, known as the Four Noble Truths. And at first glance, it looks very simple, but yet it's been confounding and confusing Buddhists for thousands of years. Yet, I believe it still remains elegantly simple. And I can only compare it to the present my daughter wanted. She said, when you go to America, would you please bring me a Rubik's Cube? You remember, you know, the Rubik's Cube, that thing? So I had to look everywhere. They're not very, yeah. John, I could have borrowed it. Thank you. Thank you, man. Do you know how to solve it, John? Do you know the solution?
Yes, I do, my friend.
This is the thing. So I brought the Rubik's Cube, and I did it when I was a kid, and I do not know the solution. And I turn it, and I turn it, and I can't solve it. And my daughter's, you know, frustrated with it already. And we give it to her 11-year-old friend, and her friend takes it and here, and she solved it. There's a trick to it. You know the trick, John.
Indeed.
I may turn to you later for advice. But anyway, it's on the surface looks simple. When you get into it, it confounds you and looks complex. But yet, if you know the trick, it's elegantly simple again. And I think the Four Noble Truths are like that. And what we're going to see in looking at the Heart Sutra is the very elegant solution, or maybe we should say resolution or dissolution, that Buddhists in the Mahayana tradition, especially Zen tradition, found for the puzzle that is presented. Because the Buddha says, life is suffering. Well, actually, he doesn't say that. He uses a Buddhist technical term, dukkha, which is very often in English translated as suffering. But it's really much more varied term. It has many meanings. And I would say that it really means dissatisfaction or the various frustrations or frictions that one feels when life is not as the little self would wish. Some people say life is suffering because we get sick, or we grow old, or we lose someone, someone dies, we die. Life is suffering. Our business goes bankrupt. We're in Las Vegas and we put money on the table with red and it comes up black. By the way, all my time, 1 month in Las Vegas, I did not put even a nickel in a slot machine. I'm not a gambler. Not a gambler. Las Vegas did not make 5 cents from me. I'll tell you that. But anyway, when you want life to be X, yourself, your little self wants life to be X, and life hands you Y, that's dukkha, as far as I'm concerned. And it's big dukkha when life hands you something that you really don't want, like to be sick or to lose someone you love. Now, people say that to be sick is dukkha, to die is dukkha, to grow old is dukkha. And actually not. This is a very technical point. If, for example, you could be sick and perfectly content and equanimous with your sickness, there is, in Buddhist terms, no dukkha. There is no suffering. If your cat died and you were just fine with it, no dukkha. Now, that's also, I think, not a very healthy state to be in, which we'll get into in a second. I don't want to be the kind of person who, when their cat dies, well, get a new cat. Not like that. Or get a new wife, or, whatever it is. And when I was in the hospital, part of me did not want to be there at all because I'm a human being. And when my mother died, I cried at her funeral because I'm a human being. So what are they talking about as the solution for dukkha? Now, first off, let's look at what the Buddha said is the cause of dukkha. He said, first, there is dukkha, this dissatisfaction, and there is a cause for it. Tanha. I'm using all the fancy terms today. Tanha, I believe, is a Sanskrit word that we usually translate as desire, but it more accurately, it's something like thirst. It's basically you want X and life hands you Y. Desire, if we had no desires, if we were like the rocks in my garden here, or the mountain that just rests there with no preferences, we would have no suffering. The rock doesn't care. A bird sits on it, pecks at it, poops on it. The rock doesn't care. No dukkha in that rock. But for sentient beings like us, our desires create suffering when they're frustrated. And they even create, technically in Buddhism, suffering when they're satisfied. How? For example, let's say I get what I want. Well, then I want to keep it, right? Oh, I've made some money. Now I'm afraid of losing it, right? Or I've gotten the person I love. Oh, I'm happy for 3 days, but now I'm afraid of the relationship being lost, something. Even getting what you want has dukkha inherent in it because we desire to keep what we want. So even winning has dukkha because of what we desire. The rock, on the other hand, doesn't think win or lose. Oh, today's a hot day. It's a cold day. I wish it was the other. No, the rock is just the stone. But sentient beings like us, we desire, and thus we feel dukkha. But, said the Buddha, there's a cure for dukkha. And that is the Eightfold Path, which we'll get into. Now, This has confounded Buddhists for a couple of thousand years. Mostly, and other Indian religions that are based on this concept of dukkha. You know, the Buddha, before he was the Buddha, tried other ways to, we should say, squash desire, escape desire. The most famous examples, and when I went to India a couple of years ago, I saw these people. There's this guy, he's keeping his arm over his head for decades because he feels that if he can get past the desire not to have his arm up like this, then he's free. He wants to transcend the desires of the body. There are still these people, and they flagellate themselves with a whip, or they do all kinds of painful things, and the Buddha tried this because they want to escape desire that way. And they feel that when you're so totally free of the body's desires, then you're liberated. That's a very common view in Eastern religions, including in Buddhism. You got to get totally free of desire, and then we're free. The cut to the chase at the end, the Zen guy said, well, you don't have to do that, and yet you can get free from another way. Okay, I'm just cutting ahead in the chase. And then the Buddha also did deep meditations when he went completely into a realm of such oneness, peace, bliss, wholeness, such satisfaction that he was beyond all desire because all was just bliss. That works too. It's called opium. Morphine does that too. It's also kind of a trap because it takes us out of being human. And some Eastern religions, including some aspects of Buddhism, think being human, being in this world is just such a bad deal that the only way is to really get out of Dodge, really get out there either in this mental state of such bliss or escaping the body or not being reborn again. We got to get out of here. But some of the Zen guys said, but hey, we kind of like it here. It's not that bad. You know, it's not perfect, but you know, life's pretty good. Do we really have to escape all this to be free? What happened was that in Buddhism and in many kinds of practices, there became such an ideal of escaping desire to be liberated that people have even gone to these extremes. And even in traditional Buddhism, there was the feeling that even though it's a more moderate way, you know, that the monk must really moderate desires. No sex, no money, removing themselves from temptation, right? Because they really need to tone down the desire. Do nothing tempting, you know, stay away from the chocolate cake. And well, actually, no, you can have the chocolate cake if someone puts it in your bowl, but even then you must eat it with total equanimity. You must have no preferences. You must be really accepting of all things to an extreme, which may be good for some people because that really tones down the desire. When the desire is toned down and you feel satisfaction, you feel a certain liberation. Hi, Chris. Good to have you home. I'm home. Good to see you again. Okay. We're talking about the Four Noble Truths. And there was also the belief that the Buddha was so free of desire and dissatisfaction. He was so liberated in peace that nothing in life would ever be upsetting to him. Maybe so. But most of the Buddhists who were practicing through the years realized that they were not getting there. They were perhaps getting great peace and liberation, toning down the desires, but they were still not at that level of perfection. So the idea came, well, maybe next life, or maybe 100 lives from now. Finally, you'll get to a state where everything is satisfying. There is no dissatisfaction in dukkha. Everything is at peace. You stub your toe and you're fine with it. You get have to go in the hospital. The doctor says you have cancer. No problem, right? Whatever happens, bird poops on your head, you're fine with it. Must have happened a lot with the Buddha because he was always sitting under trees. That's a Buddhist joke. You get it? He's always sitting under trees. Must have a lot of times, I'm sure, you know, but he didn't move. Anyway, what happened was some Buddhists discovered that one could be free of desire even in a world of desire. You could be free of dissatisfaction even in a world of dissatisfaction. And the trick to that is what we call emptiness, which I say is also wholeness, which is to know life as the relative and the absolute, as we chanted this morning, and to see that life is, I often like to say, not two ways at once that are not two. One can be free of desire and have desire at once. Because nirvana is samsara, and samsara, this complicated world, is nirvana. You can experience it both ways at once. You don't have to just go to a world where there is no division, there's only peace, there's only bliss, and completely escape this world. You can be the lotus in the mud. You can be the bodhisattva like Vimalakirti, who was in the world of the city and business and complexity and war and peace, and yet somehow also know this other way. They're not two. This is emptiness. This is what the Heart Sutra is preaching. We live in a world of birth and death, which sometimes breaks our heart, but yet there's something here that's so whole in emptiness that it's beyond birth and death. We lose. Sometimes we lose the people we love. Sometimes we lose what we desire. This is dukkha, the dissatisfaction. But yet from this whole perspective, nothing can be lost. Nothing can be gained because it's all right here. This completion is here and always was. Sekishi's not feeling so well right now. He has his own dukkha. But yet there's something beyond even sickness and health. It's something so basic. And we don't have to flee one to know the other. So the trick, the solution to the Rubik's Cube that the Zen folks found is, you can live in a world of dukkha and yet realize that even dukkha is empty. You can live in a world of tanha, desire, and have desires, but realize that even the desires are empty, are that wholeness, are that complete satisfaction right there. So even as you have your sadness and your happiness too, even as you have your sometimes broken heart, you realize this something that cannot be broken because it is so whole. And we can live life in both ways at once, knowing and be liberated in this life. Rubik's Cube solved. Now there's some catches. I am a lawyer after all. I always have to point out the loopholes. 1 second, please. Well, if you could have your desires and just live with your desires and also be satisfied at the same time, doesn't that mean I could just like rob banks, kill, uh, just eat chocolate till it's coming out of my ears and just be so satisfied that I'll be fine with it? The answer, yes, you could. And it would also make you a total psychopath, which unfortunately uh, actually exists in this world. And apparently, a good portion of them are running our corporations and business and politics, from what I understand. But that's another story. But yes, this world is filled with people who have their own desires and can go with them. And if they hurt others or there are whatever ramifications, it doesn't bother them. It's just water off their back. They're not emotionally moved by it. It is a mental disease. And yes, it would be possible to misuse what I just said to say that you can do anything, but because it's really washed away in emptiness and wholeness, in a sense, it doesn't matter. And it happened, for example, there were some Buddhists and before World War II or very militaristic who said, oh, if you kill the enemy, you're actually not killing because the enemy is empty and killing is empty. Thus, it doesn't matter. Go kill as you will because it's all empty. There is no death. There are a few people like that. Not as many as that terrible book, Zen at War, by the way. That book exaggerated horribly how many people there were like that. There were not so many, but there were a few. Okay? There was the meditating guy, I think he was in Norway, the terrible fellow who was meditating, and then he went on the island and killed all those kids at a camp. Do you remember that? Because he put himself in such a mental state that he got so concentrated he could commit that. Yes, you could abuse what I just said. Thus, we have the precepts. You're not going to get the fruit of what I said, the true liberation, if your heart is so filled with anger and violence and greed that you really need to rob banks just to rob banks or just to run businesses to destroy other people or to kill. It's a misuse. It is the dark side. The dark side. George Lucas got that from Zen, I'm telling you. He got that from Buddhism, the dark side, okay? That is the dark side. Thus, in our teachings, you keep moderation, you keep on a good path, avoiding violence, emphasizing peace, right? Emphasizing generosity towards others, right speech. Okay, this is the path. This is the path we walk. Don't be, be diligent. Think right understanding means keep your mind focused on the Buddhist teachings. Don't go into black teachings or evil ways. Engage in right livelihood. You could be a Zen hitman or drug pusher. You could be, and then just meditate and wash it away. But we emphasize right livelihood. There is a path. There is a path to walk to stay on the good path, the good direction. All right? So this is the path we walk in order to realize the fruits of this way. And yet, says the Heart Sutra, it's all empty. Unless you're liberated right now in this world of dissatisfaction. Even when you feel dissatisfied, part of you can know this other realm where no dissatisfaction is possible and they come together. And we saw this when we looked at other sections of the Heart Sutra last couple of months. We just saw other perspectives on this. For example, first we looked at the Abhidharma, which was the theory very prevalent in Buddhism. It's at no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, that section. It's about how the world, the data flows in the senses, goes up here, and it's cut into pieces and judged. The wholeness is broken into pieces, right? But we reverse the process and let it flow back into wholeness and emptiness again. That's what we're doing in our Zazen. The self and its desires become small. the hard border between self and the rest of the world softens or sometimes drops away. All is wholeness again. In Zazen, I'm not going to say every time I sit Zazen, I'm suddenly, truly one with the universe like that, but it happens. Some days, really, you flow and the trees are inside you, and the bird call in the tree is, and you are inseparable. All things flow together and the whole world seems whole, down to the farthest star. I went with my son, we were traveling to visit Shinshin. We went to, one of the national parks, Arches National Park. And it was about 10 o'clock at night and there are no lights. And the sky was just, you can see the Milky Way and all the stars. And I sat a little Zazen. Of course, I know those stars are light years away. There was no inside or outside. Those stars were inside me, or I was them, as much as the fingers on my own hand. It was hard to explain. Milky Way was not over there. It was kind of maybe an optical illusion, whatever you'd call it, or a sensation. Everything truly dropped away. And it's possible for us to do that. But anyway, in the Abhidharma, we cut the world into pieces. And part of our practice here is to do various things where the hard division between self and the world softens, drops away, and the self's desires for what it wants become small. We become more satisfied. We sit Zazen, practicing radical equanimity and acceptance and allowing. We sit without judging good or bad. We just sit. The sitting is completion itself. And what are we doing? We're reducing tanha, the desire, because we're sitting in such completion and equanimity that our desires are small. If we're Buddha in the tree and the bird poops on our head, no problem. We're fine with it. Or whatever else life hands us in that moment. Now, of course, when we get back into the world, it's complicated to put this all together when you go to the doctor's office or you get in a fender bender or your business is not going so well or your girlfriend walks out on you. But our practice is to put this satisfaction and wholeness and equanimity together with this crazy life of, it's not always a bowl of cherries like that. Okay. Then last time we met, before I went to America, we talked about the 12-fold chain. It's also the same thing again. It talks about how the baby is born and it's somehow from the mother, one becomes two right there. That's a mystery right there. How you had one person and suddenly you got two people, right? What happened there? But anyway, that's what happens when a baby's born. And that baby suddenly develops a strong sense of self. First, it's in the crib or wherever, and it's not separate from the world. But then it realizes, I like some things, I don't like some things, I'm feeling some things that are pleasant, I'm not feeling. And it develops its strong sense of self. That strong sense of self has a strong sense of me and not me. And it has a strong sense of what I like and what I don't like. And you're off to the races. And suddenly it thinks, wait a second, there's a me. That means someday there's not going to be a me. That means I'm going to die. And it's gets very scared about that. But our practice, again, is to reverse that. And not to get too Freudian, but we crawl back into the Buddha womb. That's what it's literally called, the Buddha womb, where the wholeness is manifested again. We go back to that state before the division. Now we're conscious beings. It's impossible for us to do that completely because we do just to be ourselves. We have to have that sense of me and not me. But somehow a little bit we get a taste of going back to that unbroken state before it all. Okay? So And when you do that, when there's no self, no problem. That's what I like to say. No self, no problem. Right? When the self is reduced and small and desires are washed away, we're okay. Okay, so anyway, so that's what it says. Everything is so empty that the solution to the Rubik's Cube is that suffering is empty, self is empty, desire is empty, even the Four Noble Truths are empty. That's how empty this is. So he says, no suffering, no cause or end to suffering, which is the end to suffering. Because it's so empty and whole that even the Four Noble Truths are not necessary. And yet, we're still, in another sense, there is no end to suffering because we're still going to live in this world of suffering as long as we're alive, you know. There's no path. There's no wisdom and no gain. There's no enlightenment to gain. And when you realize what that really means, that's wisdom and gain. That's enlightenment. It's so empty you can't gain it. It's so empty you don't need to. It's so unbroken and whole that you can't think of it as a thing to get. And putting it into practice is this path of no path that we walk. Because bodhisattvas, and that means you and me too, those who are trying to, bodhisattva is someone who's trying to make it real in this world, trying to bring this to truth in this world and to help others with it. Because we're living this perfection of wisdom, because we're living this view of samsara, which is nirvana, of emptiness, which is also dukkha, we're living this view of the perfection of wisdom by trying to embody and see and embody life these two ways. And when we do that, guess what? No hindrance of mind. No frictions, man. You're just flowing. Asterisk, footnote, even amongst the hindrances and the frictions. You see, those Buddhists who say, I'm going to get there someday when I have absolutely no hindrance of mind, no friction, good luck to them. I wish them well, but that's not me, buddy. I can't do it. And if you want to find, you better find some other guy to listen to if he claims he can do it, because I can't. I'm just a human being, and I like some things and I don't like some things, and I find some things frustrating and sad. And I look in the news and I see what's going on, and it breaks my heart sometimes. I wouldn't change it for a thing. I'm not going to be a psychopath. Man, I care what's going on. And I'm not afraid to be sad or frustrated sometimes. Asterisk, in moderation. We also do not let these things run away with us, too. There's a difference between feeling sad or brokenhearted and being so destructively depressed and grievous that you would even think of ending your life, for example. Depressed to a degree you can't function. There's a difference between being a little afraid and being so panicked that you're immobilized and can't leave the house. We allow ourselves to have these emotions, to feel in this life, but we also believe that we are not prisoners of these emotions. We should not be. So our path is one of moderation. Right? Oh, you want a little piece of cake for dessert? Please do. Don't eat the whole thing. You need to get a little money to feed your family, and you have a job and you're glad to get a raise so that your kids can get better shoes and go to school. I got a kid in college. I'm glad I got some money. Good for you. You want to be the head of a grand corporation and build your own rocket ship and go to the moon? Maybe you got issues. I don't know. Maybe you can moderate it a little bit. You got what I'm saying? Ours is a way of moderation. But if you have desires in moderation and you try to avoid the really bad ones, like killing people and robbing banks and things like that, you will have no hindrance of mind. You can know this in the wholeness of emptiness too. No hindrance, therefore no fear. Some people, again, some Buddhists will say that, oh, we want to get to a state where there's absolutely no fear. I can't do it. I got tickets when I was in Las Vegas from a donor who said, you go up to, they have this huge tower in Las Vegas, and you go down a bungee cord and you jump off. I was going to do it. My kid wanted to do the helicopter ride. I was going to do that because I've jumped out of a plane 2 times. And I knew I was 25 years old, so it's a little different now. I'm 60, okay? But I was ready to do it. My kid chickened out. You can get in a place where there's no fear, but I'm going to tell you, usually I cannot get in that place. When I was sick a couple of years ago and the doctor said, well, we think you're okay, but it could be, I just was sweating bullets. Of course. This is to be human. But yet, at the same time, I knew this place with no death, therefore no fear. I was in the hospital, sometimes miserable and scared, but at the same time, I could know this other place. There's no death, there's no fear. That's all the way I can describe it. Okay. Far beyond all delusion. I don't like that translation so much. I don't know why we use that, but right in the heart of delusion is a better way to say it. Nirvana is already here. There has never been a Buddhist I knew, not Dogen. If you read Dogen sometimes, man, he had bad days. You could tell. Somebody comes to his writing sometime. He complains about things, or he seems like he was sick and he didn't want to be sick. He died very young, and I'm sure he wasn't happy about that. And the Buddha, even in his old age, there's one sutra where he complains about being old. Like he's falling. The Buddha says literally, I'm falling apart here. Yeah, I'm like an old cart tied together with leather straps, he said. I don't think there's been a Buddhist who has completely learned the way of liberation in this life. However, I believe there have been countless Buddhists who have learned the complete way of liberation in this life. Didn't I just say 2 opposite things? Yes. Because one can be in this life that sometimes is so very dissatisfying, but yet know this other way, which is free. And they are not two. This is, if you ask me, what the Heart Sutra and the other chant, the identity of relative and absolute, and the Lotus Sutra, and all, basically about everything we encounter in the teachings. This is the heart of the Zen teachings. At least I think so. Anyway, that's all I got for today on this. Anybody have any questions or comments and complaints? Any dissatisfactions with the talk? Yes, Sekushi, who's not feeling so well today, so is...
Well, thank you, Jindo. I don't have any dissatisfaction with the talk, but I wanted to tell everybody how to solve a Rubik's Cube, and in a Buddhist way, in a non-Buddhist way, and then in a Buddhist way. I figured out how to solve the Rubik's Cube when I was probably 6, maybe 7. And here's how it works. When you turn it to a diagonal, the corner piece, if you put your thumb under it, you can pop it right off. And when that first corner piece comes off, the whole thing loosens up, and you can just take it apart and put it back together in the right way.
John, is that the secret?
Okay.
That is one way.
So that's the non-Buddhist way to solve a Rubik's Cube. So as a kid, now, so here's what I think is the Buddhist way to solve a Rubik's Cube. As a kid, when I figured that out, the Rubik's Cube became incredibly boring, right? Because you can mess it up and you can put it back together, and neither state is very interesting because you can just take it apart and put it back together and it's fixed. It's a really boring toy now. But now that you can put it back together in any pattern you want, this was for me, this was my experience, is then like what was interesting about it was figuring out, okay, so if I can do that, how can I move this piece to this piece without messing up this face? And like, you know, what are the ways that you can start to figure out how to rearrange the parts without messing up other parts, or like you start to play with the patterns. And once you start playing with the patterns, I don't remember how to do it anymore, but at that point, like I could solve a Rubik's Cube, you know, without cheating. But here's the thing, is that once you know how to start moving individual pieces, it doesn't really matter whether it's solved or not. Moving the pieces became the interesting part. Because every possible combination, every possible state of the Rubik's Cube is a completely valid state in and of itself. And like that, I think that's the Buddhist way to solve a Rubik's Cube, is it's always solved.
You know, we have a section of Treeleaf for calligraphy, for oryoki. I think we're going to start Rubik's Do, the way of the Rubik. And you will be our teacher, Section. And John and Secretary.
But mostly John.
Because I think he knows the way without cheating. Which... Anybody else have anything else? Something? Yeah, we got our live audience.
Oh yeah,
here.
oh yeah. Can
Yes,
I?
yes.
Oh yeah, is it okay? Basically, how I see it, it's like, no, the dukkha, the suffering. I think it's also sometimes a harsh way to learn to teach us how we overcome these challenges, and it's up to us how we deal with it. Some might go for the bad path, and some go for the good path, and some stay balanced. So it's up to that individual how you deal with it. And if you can find the right course where you go down that path, you can achieve something. But you need to have a clear mind for it. If your mind is troubled or muddy with something, then basically there's nothing you can do.
I think that was Master Dogen's point precisely when he spoke of practice enlightenment, or we say sometimes in English, practice opportunities, that whatever situation life hands you is kind of a crossroads, and you can go one way or the other of it. For example, if life hands you something you really don't like, you can either meet it with generosity and goodness and acceptance and caring for others, or anger and selfishness and violence and resentment, the devil, or you can bring out the Buddha in you. Exactly. So, and we can, you know, it's not like you, in Master Dogen's way, you get it right and then you're going to be like that forever. For example, one moment you could have a situation and you handle it with grace, and you handle it with generosity, and you can feel it usually. Life hands you something and you can kind of say, you know, I'm handling this wisely. My heart is open and I do feel no hindrance about this, even though I'm now facing some terrible situation. I realize this, but I'm meeting it openly and with acceptance and flowing. Or you can feel yourself, I'm angry now and I'm pissed and I know it and I know I shouldn't be this way, but damn it, this is how I am. And we all do this because this is what humans do. And it's a constant crossroads and it's constant practice. And I think, like in all things, we get better with practice and going the good way. And I'm not going to claim that I never fall into the bad way, because I have my moments too sometimes.
But I do always have, like, if I not handle it properly, I always get the regret later, like, oh, I should have handled it
Yeah, she said that if she handles it badly later, she reflects and you know you should have handled it better. Yeah, I think so. So we can always manifest Buddha in any moment, or we can fall into our own personal hell that we create for ourselves. Okay. Yes, Brad.
Yeah, good morning. Does sort of what you just spoke to rings a lot of bells for me when I hear a saying, and I forget which koan it comes from, but it says the most appropriate, the highest teaching in Zen is an appropriate response. And I'm wondering if what you're talking about is really the essence of that statement from the koan.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Very good. Sekshi.
To go back to cheating and to reflect on Brad's thing, I brought over I ran away a minute ago and brought this over. If you want to cheat on your Zen Rubik's Cube, check this out. It's 280 koans with answers. So we could look up Brad's thing in here.
There's a whole story about that book. And but basically, yes, those were crib notes. You remember crib notes when you got a test and you didn't read Moby Dick, so there's the little book you get and sums it up in 20 pages and you can write your book report. Those were crib notes for Rinzai monks in the monastery to be able to respond to the koans. The first off, I understand that if you use any of those answers actually in a real Rinzai monastery, they're going to kick you out the door. The best places expect you to let it emerge from yourself spontaneously. But actually, there's still a lot of that goes on. To pass the course, you're supposed to memorize certain phrases. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I'm sorry. That book is not the way to cheat to the answer of all the koans. No, it's actually not that bad either, that book. But there's a whole story. There's a whole story behind it. In any event, anything else? Anything else pressing? I'd like to say thanks to Shokai. My fingers were. I returned to the real guitar today with your little device. Thanks to you, so I've returned to my guitar practice. Thank you very much. My guitar practice is a real lesson in imperfection. Okay. We are going to have a short zazen now, remembering that zazen is not a matter of long or short. You can sit where you are. Now, in honor of my return from Las Vegas, we will have Hokey Pokey now with one of the kings of Vegas, Elvis, who we discovered was actually a great student of Buddhism. He was recommending Alan Watts to various people. I posted about that. But if you think about it, most of Elvis's songs are about dukkha. You know, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. He's complaining, man, crying all the time, right? Or love me tender. You know, it's all about desire. You wouldn't have music if you didn't have dukkha. That's a good thing about dukkha. But anyway, that's a subject for another time. Now we are going to have the sacred ancient ritual known in Sanskrit as the hokey pokey and in Pali as the hokey koki. If you've never engaged in this ritual, it's an esoteric ritual of moving zazen. If you've never engaged in this, please just follow along with everybody. Please let us now rise and find our peaceful center.
Put your right arm in, baby, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around, baby, that's what it's all about. You put your left arm in, you take your left arm out. You put your left arm in, baby, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around, baby, that's what it's all about. Right leg on out. You put your right leg in, baby, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around, baby, that's what it's all about. You put your left leg in, you take your left leg out. You put your left leg in, baby, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around, baby, that's what it's all about. Put your big head in, mama, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around, mama, that's what it's all about. You put your backside in, take your backside on out. Put your backside in, baby, and shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around, baby, that's what it's all about. Self in, take your whole self out. Put your whole self in and wiggle all about. You do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around, baby, that's what it's all about. Well, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Zazen. Uh-oh. See, they tried to get in touch with me. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
And I missed it.
What's it called?
And now I'm in trouble with the Japanese government.
Oh, yeah.
So like 15 minutes you have to respond or something?
Yeah.
Unless you're in Olympic today? Depends on the 15.
We will have a long kinhin. Say again? Oh, please, please. Okay, how is your legs?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The long sitting is a difficult time.
Yeah.
Change, get up if you need to.
Yeah, I will just stretch it and then
Okay.
it's fine. I was just talking to your wife how talkative your cat is.
Oh, cat doesn't need Zen. Cat is Zen.
Where did Chris go? We will now recite the metaverses, followed by a little zazen.
Cold today.
Hmm?
Cold today.
It is strange weather.
Yeah.
You can't decide if it's cold or it's hot or.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And look what the weeds did to my house. I was gone for 4 weeks. Oh boy.
I was just noticing, like, wow, my kids were up there playing around not so long ago. Another
Oh, it's unbelievable.
That's
Yeah,
growing.
Ibaraki is amazing. Yeah. And if I don't get after these soon. Okay. I'm complaining about the weeds that have sprung up around my house in the 4 weeks I was away. See, dukkha, weed dukkha. The weeds are not doing anything. It's just, they're just plants. They're just reaching for the sun. It's only me who judges them, right? Okay. All right, we're going to recite the metaverse. James, good to see you. Are you, you're not back in Thailand, right? You're,
No, I'm still in North Carolina awaiting the incredible samsara of a lot of things. But I'm going to probably hopefully go back in a week. We'll see. The visa issues to get in Thailand are complex and myriad,
I understand. I understand.
but I'm doing
You have
okay.
to do, you have to do curfew too when you head home?
2 weeks of
back to Thailand?
2 weeks of quarantine in a hospital hotel.
Oh, hospital hotel? Okay,
Whatever.
I get 9 more days at home. So
Oh no, they're afraid I'll go
You
wild
made
and
us-
crazy. They're afraid if they let me wander around, I'll go crazy or something. But
you
Well, I
may
already am
notice I stopped shaving too. I'm taking advantage.
oh, okay.
All right, we're going to recite the metaverses. Now, this is actually, from the South Asian tradition, but it's actually a visualization exercise. It's not just saying the words. It's something that you should actually, in your heart, um, manifest or act like a good actor if you need to, but that you actually feel this, even when you're speaking about difficult people. And it's for our own heart. The idea is that if we project healing on others, we also benefit, we heal ourselves too. And it's a win-win, a Buddhist win-win situation. Okay. Now we begin with someone we love. No, actually, we begin with ourselves. Nothing wrong with that. And then we move to someone we love, then a friend, then a kind of a passing stranger, someone maybe we didn't even really notice came into our life for a brief moment, someone on the elevator, something like that. And then a difficult person, either in our own life or in the world. I always have to say, with the idea that if they knew healing, if they knew peace, they would not be so. They would not do the harm that they do. That's with the sense in which we wish them to know peace, with the idea that peaceful people don't cause much trouble in this world, generally, I think. And then we chant for all sentient beings. As the UFO report was released this week, I often say, on this planet and all others. May they be peaceful too, when they come to visit, especially. Okay. All right. I'll ring the bell and we'll begin. First with ourselves. May I be free of suffering. Dukkha, suffering. May I feel safe and still. Really feel it. May I be free of enmity. Enmity means hate. May I be loving, gentle, and kind, even in those moments when I don't want to be. May I be healthy, but because that probably won't always be so, may I be at ease in all my ills. May I be at peace, embracing all conditions, even the ones my little self doesn't like. All conditions of life. Okay. All right. You can think of someone you love now. It's okay to think of more than one person if you wish. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Next will be for a friend. Let's see. Okay. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Now for a passing stranger. Since I'm in quarantine, I haven't met too many people this week, but let's see. Oh, there was the guy at the quarantine hotel at the reception. You know, that's a difficult job. They got all the people coming and they got to get them processed. So there, I'll chant for the people at the quarantine hotel. May they be free of suffering. May they feel safe and still. May they be free of enmity. May they be loving, grateful, and kind. May they be healthy and at ease in all their ills. May they be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, next is the one person who did us wrong or does the world wrong or did something. And with the idea that if they were at peace and healthy, mentally and physically, they would not be so. And if other people like them were so, they would not do what they do like that. That's how we chant. Okay. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. Oh boy, may he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay? And now for all sentient beings everywhere, us included, there's no difference, no separation. Past and future, near and far. May we be free of suffering. May we feel safe and still. May we be free of enmity. May we be loving, grateful, and kind. May we be healthy and at ease in all our ills. May we be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. we'll have one more period of be just where you are, Zazen. And all right, just make yourself sit in a balanced, stable, comfortable way as much as you can after so many hours. Right? All right, let's sit. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows.
All harmful words, thoughts, and acts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind. Now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way unattainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way unattainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way unattainable.
Well, very good. Very good. Well, I wish you all some very manageable dukkha this week, and may your use your tanha with great wisdom. Lovely to sit with you all. Good to be home again. Hi, Kantai. Good to see you. See you guys around. Okay. Yay. Sekshi, go to bed. Thank you for coming today too.
No problem.
Thank you. See you guys. Hey, John. Oh, okay. See you guys. Hey, you're not supposed to come in here.